gonna try to present. So I want to see what it looks like. We'll test that. So do I have to let you in? Nice. Admit. Cool. Coolio. All
If you
right.
don't get that link, Matt, I will send it directly
Hey,
to
hey,
you
Chris,
from my email.
let's do
rather than
this.
going through the
Well, actually,
whole
I'm gonna
share thing. So let me know.
give me a moment.
Oh,
Let's see.
sweet.
Which means I didn't get it on the hotmail.
Maybe.
Admit.
That's what I'm gonna elaborate.
Admit. I should turn on my, I don't know what audio we've got. Can people hear? Hello?
I can hear you.
You're coming out of here.
All right.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, Jeanette. Good
Hi.
evening. We're gonna make sure for the people who are remote, we get the sort of one mic on, one mic off kind of thing, not feedback.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Good, thanks. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Steve.
I'm just doing some testing here. We're not started yet. Let's do this. Okay, I have a budget draft presentation. We're going to kind of quickly go through later, but I just want to see what this looks like when I go full screen. That's not full screen. When I go let's do play. Ooh, awesome. Cool. All right, don't power it off, Chris. Hey, do this, Chris. What can we do? I don't need well, I guess we do want to see people talking up there.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
You
leave
can
it.
actually change that on your,
I do it on my end?
Yeah.
Okay.
your screen. It's your screen that's.
Yep.
Rob's here.
Oh, wow. He can sit here.
All right.
With the kettle on when I left.
The bottle will be burnt out by the time you get home unless someone turns it off.
But what was the saying in the Civil War? Hold my dinner, keep my dinner warm, I'll be right back. And then that didn't last well, did it?
No.
Maybe keep my dinner warm. Yeah, that's more intimate. Thank you, Chris.
I'm pulling up the minutes, or excuse me, not the minutes, the agenda. Which meeting are, yeah, I was gonna say. All right, Jeanette, let me see if I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Hey, Rob, how are you? We got a spot for you right there.
Oh, my goodness.
There you go.
I don't know, get that close to the chairman. That's a nervous.
It's very, it's,
nervous wreck.
yeah. All right, everybody.
Emails. What's this called?
I don't know that it did.
Hmm?
I don't know that it did. No.
You just wrote it this week.
Oh, okay.
Ray.
We're gonna, well, we got about one more minute. I've got the agenda up. We'll work through that. Well, let's just wait a minute. All right, 7 o'clock, we're going to call to order. I'm going to take some notes here. Establish a quorum. We've got Matt, we've got Rob, we've got Jeanette, we've got Jason, we've got myself, and we'll ask Brady. Unless there's objection, we'll ask Brady to sit tonight for the absent member. Wonderful. Let's see. We did the establish of the quorum. I realize I omitted public comment. So I've got a couple changes to the agenda tonight, pretty basic. One is I do want to go through a draft presentation that I have been working on for next week. So I'd ask that we make a change to the agenda to add and I can edit this Word doc and I can revise this, but to add draft budget presentation under old, and to add under number 4 as item 5, public comment. So those 2 items as the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion on adding those?
Is this a special meeting or is it a regular meeting?
This is a regular meeting. We had talked about canceling the meeting, but it was on our original schedule and the cancellation was
Oh, as
not.
long as it's on the original schedule, it's a regular meeting, we can add to it. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeanette, for clarifying that. It was on the original calendar we voted on, was it December, back in December?
So you need to put old business B, draft board budget presentation.
I actually want that to happen, A, and
Okay.
then we'll discuss it because I'm going to bring up what those things might mean. And then we can talk about anything that needs to happen there. I've got
Okay.
some people coming in and I'm just trying to admit them. Lori, are you in? That might have been the person calling in.
That's
if any-
me. That's
Okay, okay. If anybody can't hear, please let us know because we are running a hybrid meeting here. All right, so under old business, I do want to just give you a high level view of what I'm considering for a budget
We
presentation.
didn't vote on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jeanette. Motion to change the agenda as stated.
I seconded that motion.
Jason seconded.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll put that down as unanimous. I've gotten smart. I have a motion worksheet that I'm going from here. All right, which probably we should have anyway, right? Just a form we can kind of fill in as it goes. Motion to change agenda. As noted. Oh, there was a big whistle there. Okay. All right, so now going over to item A in old business, the budget, draft budget presentation. So there, at any point I'm going to go kind of quickly because I feel like we've discussed a lot of these things, but if anything stands out to you, please just feel free to interrupt.
Is
And
this
when we-
what you're looking to put at next week, next May 4th, when you do the presentation to the town?
Correct.
Okay,
What I feel like is we, the board, or I will be presenting an overview and then we'll be throwing it out to the individual departments to dive in deeper if they need to.
okay.
I mean, we'll be giving them agenda items to do so. So it's theirs to do with what they'd like. All right, so I'm going to just flip through this. We have some objectives. The things that I want to focus on here is this timely adoption of budget. I know it's a challenge every year, but I want to try to reduce uncertainty. And I think it also reduces costs, right? If we can bring those things into timing. Please stop me at any point. I'm going to go in more detail next week on this, and this is definitely draft. So I'll take some feedback. Yeah, Matt.
Mike, going back to the timely, I know last week we mentioned starting the process sooner.
Yep.
And also from the different boards and their budgets, getting more detail. Those 2 things that we talked about for a while, so.
Jeanette, could you hear that?
Not all the way, but
I'll repeat a little bit, but he was saying to get the information, get started sooner, get more information from the other departments sooner as part of that process that would allow us to move more quickly. I think the challenge is, as we've seen, last Wednesday, we're at our meeting and the state finance committee was making potential changes to ECS that evening, right? And that was what Chris was pulling up at the meeting. But at that time, we thought it was for the next fiscal year. But it seems like they're looking at this fiscal year to step in front of what the governor said he would not do. So that's the challenge of moving on these things early and timely, is that these changes are coming in. Now, I've made in this slide, you'll see I've made some accommodation for the 2 potential changes that I see coming, and we can kind of see how that pans out. Thank you, Matt. Some budget focus. Let me the timeline here. This should match up with what people are expecting, right? We'll talk about that. We're at a meeting prior to the 4th. Here's your bottom line. This is your fiscal 22 fiscal year bottom line. You've got your town, and I've got a typo. Look at that. You've got your capital, you've got your education, and your total. These are the numbers that we came up, that we decided to present, say, to the public hearing. So you can see town is 19%, CIP is 2%, and EDU is 79%. Here's your budget comparisons this year to last year. I can't see on my screen. Let me get rid of these people. Oh boy, my mouse pointer is gone. I'll just look up there. You can see that town budget is down $150,000 or just over 5%. CIP is up a bit. Education is up a little bit, but your total budgets are down 0.5%, right? Those are numbers we've seen. And how do we pay for this? Okay. The largest source of funding is our local property tax, which is 68%. There are some interest and liens, but it's a very small sliver of that. We have local revenue, which is your permits, your dump stickers and so forth, which is about 2%. And then we have this other big piece, which is the intergovernmental revenue, state grants, education cost sharing, et cetera. And as I flip to this next slide, you'll see that the ECS is a big chunk of that intergovernmental revenue, right? ECS itself makes up 27% of our budget. That's significant, right? Sadly, yeah, Matt, go ahead,
Something small.
please.
In the taxes, we put property taxes.
It says under taxes, property tax, under there.
Yeah.
Do you mean on the big, so
Yeah, on the
technically,
pie chart.
technically on our revenue sheet, taxes includes property tax plus interest and liens.
Okay.
So I was trying to match the language we were using on those sheets. I take your point, absolutely. But I don't want to leave out interest and liens, which I think this year we put in 40 grand, right? I don't know where those numbers are going to fall, but good, excellent point. I was trying to be as clear and crystal on the language in here. And ECS as a big chunk of our budget is literally eroding. I mean, for those of you who were around a number of years ago, there was a big drop. There was some give back, I don't know, whatever. Remember all that stuff? These are off of the budget sheets that I have in the history, okay? They may not be final numbers, I'm going by what the worksheets that we had and the records there.
Mike, do you need to change?
Wait, one sec, Chris, hold up.
A
Jeanette,
little bit of history on that.
hold on one sec, Chris. Jeanette?
Do you need to change the last column? 'Cause
Yeah,
we
so I've got an
talked about
asterisk there, pending potential reduction. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that. I think I want to present what we know to be true right now, and we can talk about it. I'll get to, I have some slides that talk about
Right.
what that impact will be. Chris, go ahead.
Our ECS has been slated to go down by about $1 billion over.
Right.
Period. We're about 3 years into that, and you're gonna see that trend line continue down on our ECS payments year over year.
That's right. But this just shows you the pressure that the budget's going to be in, which is also why, and I know I'll consider it settled business here, but why I talked about trying to build in some revenue increases, because this intergovernmental revenue is decreasing, right? And it's going to continue decreasing. We're going to pause it for a couple of years, but it's going to continue to decrease for what you're saying now, 7 more years.
Probably about 7 more years.
Which
but
is-
you never can predict what
No.
Harvard's gonna do.
Exactly. Okay, what about the re-eval, right? Reevaluation, okay? This was a reevaluation year. Individual property values probably have gone up, right? This does not mean your taxes are going to go up. Matt, this is to your point, and Jeanette, this is to make it clear, hopefully if people are seeing this. If the grand list goes up, the mill rate goes down. And this is the part, the grand list may have adjustments made before the town meeting. And this, I don't know if you have fresh numbers or any additional information
No,
tonight.
not from Angel on that.
Okay. But we'll see later, I think the consensus of the board was that we're looking at total tax, not any particular grand list mill rate combo, right? We got to that mill rate by doing some basic math, taking the neutral revenue that we wanted and dividing by the grand list. Okay.
Yes, but I thought that a couple comments at that time between the board was the fact that anything that we get above and beyond our basic math is going to be putting money into our general fund.
Yeah, but if we get, and you'll see this, if we get, if by May 5th, when we actually try to send a budget to the town for referendum, if we have better if we have fresh grand list numbers that we plug them into the worksheet, our revenue is going to be short unless we up the mill rate. But that does not mean people's taxes are going up. And you're going to see in a couple slides, if your house went up a modest amount, maybe a good amount, you're actually going to be paying less in taxes this year. I have a slide that demonstrates that. Okay, grand list comparison. Last year, $374 million. You can see 1 mil was about 374,000. This year, 425, and a mill rate is about 425,000. The mill rate went up 13.63%. I did this math based on some numbers I got. I don't know if that matches your exact percents.
14% the figure we're using.
Oh, great.
Our grant list.
Fantastic. You know what this means? This actually means if your property did not go up 13.63%, you're paying less in taxes this year. And we're going to see that, okay? Here's what I think we as a board had some consensus on last week. Grand list, you have dark blue last year, you have light blue this year. Last year, 374, this year, 425. Last year, mill rate, 26.4, this year, 23.71. But look at those, look at that, the revenue on the right side, the total tax collected. That's what we're trying to keep zero. And it's zero. I mean, we're a couple thousand off, right? Whatever that, but it is essentially zero. So if our grand list gets moved a bit down or goes a bit up, I don't want to say it won't go up, right? We're going to probably, I would think it would be prudent to make those adjustments on the 5th to put that to the town with a better mill rate number. It does not mean they're paying more in taxes. Questions on that one?
Well, that'll be a discussion for the 5th, but right
Right.
in the very middle, the two columns, the mill rate.
Go
The
ahead.
mill rate, that's an excellent slide to show to people
Yes.
and
I
really
hopefully-
focus that that is the equivalent of what a reval does.
Right. Right. I hope so. I do hope so.
Yeah,
Right.
as a board, we need to present the numbers that we know for sure, or as much as we possibly can, to be accurate at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you hear Matt? You could hear him?
Yes, I did.
He stepped up to the other
Oh, I
mic.
Turn that on.
I don't know. Okay. Here's an example. Here's an individual example. So let's say you have a house last year, it was 150,000 at 26.4. You paid a little more than $4,000 in taxes. This year, if your house went up $20,000 in value, 13.63%, that number we saw on the grand list. So you took your equal portion of that grand list increase. The mill rate goes down 2.69, like we talked about, or 10% on the mill rate, but that means nothing, right? But your taxes are up 41 cents. So that was basically zero that we're going for. But I actually checked my reval, and my reval was 8%. So if you're actually 8%, you're paying less. I'm going to save a couple $100 this year on taxes. This is the real message, right? This is the honest message, because 13.63%, I think Jason brought this up, doesn't just include the property that was here and the vehicles that were here. It also includes new vehicles, new property, and property improvements, right? So of that 13, and this, I don't know if the assessor has this broken out, but what's new to the grand list and what's just increases. So we're actually, I think, in an honest way, we're delivering a tax cut to people. If their individual existing property did not go up 13.63 or more, then they're paying less. That's the honest truth. And this is what I was trying to understand last Wednesday.
Mike,
Yes, ma'am.
can I caution you that you do not use, we're delivering you a tax cut. Don't use that phrase.
I understand.
You can say what
100%.
you're saying, just don't use that phrase.
Well, so, I mean, do you think I shouldn't show this slide? I wanted to show that because I said, hold on, I remember getting a letter. You may have gotten your letters, right? And I went in there and I did the math and I figured out what my percent was. And I just plugged it in on the original example here. I will do my best, Jeanette. Absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, our goal is to be revenue neutral.
I'm truthfully going to tell you, historically, you're going to lose people when you get here.
Yeah. I hear
You're going to grab them very clearly when you have that blue chart
This one.
that says that's what the mill
Okay.
rate was. That's all they're going to understand. Because when
Okay.
you start going, then you're going to have somebody saying, oh, well, I went up 9.1%, but I only went up $1,000. You're going to lose people at that
Right.
point.
Okay.
So be
fair
very
point.
cautious.
Fair point. Did you want to say
Yeah,
something, Jason?
it's Jason. I was wondering if we could ask Chris to get vision to if they can break out the reval into sections, in terms of, this range of house, from X amount to X amount went up or down this much, so we can sort of see where some of this is coming
That
from.
might be beyond in terms of, but
Well, if you can ask, if they say no, they say no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on.
Matt?
The whole issue with that, I mean, that's that's good information to have. Jeanette, can you hear me?
Can you hear Jeanette?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
It's good information to have, but this grand list comparison screen, everybody can agree with this.
okay,
And when you get to the other ones,
fair enough,
you start making it personal between people that, hey,
fair enough.
you know,
Yeah.
14 and 8.
Well, that's more for, I think that's just more for
Yeah,
us
for
to be able to
data-
look at for
for data,
data.
that
Yeah,
would be great.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay, I'll flip through those.
I'd pull those two slides, yeah.
I'll take that point. I'll
I
probably,
agree, I would agree with Jeanette, the dark and light blue slide is,
good, yeah.
is the one to show.
Okay. So here are our 22 revenue estimates, 31% intergovernmental revenue, 2% local revenue, and 68% taxes. So we're actually a little bit less reliant on taxes this year, 69 to 68%. That would be your property tax and your liens and interest. Here's your revenue comparison. We're basically flat on taxes, interest, and liens. We're down on local revenue, mostly due to the interest income that we lopped off. And actually, it turns out, well, we've got an asterisk here because we could have an ECS reduction. It looks probably likely, right, Chris? Because if it gets through committee.
Interestingly enough, and this is why you can't rely
Right.
on anything from Hartford till they actually have the budget in place. But Appropriations Committee met, and I'll just throw it out there because I like to, Greenwich is getting $98,000 more in funding, and Canterbury is losing 150,
Right.
159. We were slated originally to lose 130, which then we were said, oh, no, you lose nothing. Steve, from the superintendent's network, here's that when that actually hits the floor and they start negotiating the budget, most of that may disappear. You can't guarantee.
Okay,
So the question then becomes, when we're looking at this, yes, as it stands now through appropriations, we're going to lose 159K in ECS funding. Will it be 159K when it works it through and the budget's passed on June 9th? Probably not. Yeah, but the
Well-
numbers that we have now, the only number that we have is what the appropriations
Right.
committee passed.
and you'll see when we get a little bit deeper here, you'll see that we had a pretty healthy unassigned fund balance.
Mike,
And yes, go ahead, Jeanette.
when you review this slide,
Yep.
I would recommend that you throw your numbers up. But let's just say, we've have asterisks because until the final moment,
Right.
we are constantly getting new numbers from the state and we're only working off the best numbers we can get.
What are you saying? What was your suggestion then?
That when you get to this slide,
Mhm.
talk through your numbers quick, but focus on the fact that you have an asterisk here.
Yep.
And that tell the people that you are working with the best numbers you get at the moment you get the budget
Dates,
structured,
yeah.
and that they do change. If you focus on that, then if they see a change, they'll understand that, well, new numbers came in.
I mean, I
Yeah.
The
see,
date and the asterisk, that's the date we're working from.
Yeah, the as of date in an asterisk, that would be great. That's, yeah.
well, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we can change what we intend to put to the, I can discuss it, but we can't change what we're putting.
No, I'm saying.
So
I'm
we're,
saying is
as of the
for
meeting,
reference, as of, these are our.
Last
pending
Wednesday.
As of the latest publication of the numbers, which is X date.
well, it would be the Wednesday before the committee came. It would be the same day, but it would have been those slightly better numbers. You're saying do that?
In this graph,
Right.
when we present it, we can only use the latest data available.
Okay.
And we should put the date. that
So we did it last Wednesday. That would be.
We did it last Wednesday, so is it okay to put last Wednesday's date on?
That would be published the numbers.
Well,
That's
the
what
numbers,
Appropriations Committee,
Okay, yeah.
Well,
that was like April 20.
but we made decisions based on the numbers that we had at that time. Those numbers came out right after.
Put the date that we as a board.
Right.
Came
But we
to.
built the budget, yeah.
So as of last Wednesday,
Okay.
which, can somebody help me with the date on that? Was
21st.
as of
21st.
April 21st. I think that's the honest answer because that is what we're
Just for
showing.
clarity.
Sure, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So here, Matt, to your point, property, taxes, interest and liens, 9.8, almost all of it is property tax, a little bit of interest and liens. There's your total.
Is 40 grand what we put in this year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we can double check if anybody has the workbook open. Now, here's the ideal property tax. This is everybody paying everything. We take the total desired collection, which is off of our assumed revenue sheet. We take the grand list, we divide it out by the number of mills, dollars per mill. And we basically divide that and we get an assumed mill rate of 23.24. But as we know, not everybody is going to pay. Not everybody's going to pay on time. People go delinquent and so forth. So we have an actual where we have to bake in a collection rate. Okay. And that's going to actually be divided in. I checked the math. This works. You divide the percent and you get 23.71, which is what we put as a assumed mill. Remember that?
Yep.
So that's how we get everything that we're doing is on this, is in this, in shorthand in this worksheet, in this slide. Okay. All right, I'll keep going. So this is the other thing. The other potential thing is that we may have grand list changes. Do we think that we'll have anything by next Wednesday?
I don't think it's gonna be anything significant, whatever went through Board of Assessment Appeals, I don't think it will be anything too significant. So I wouldn't-
So do we not want to make mention of the grand list? Really, we have no real information and we won't by Wednesday. And it's the ECS that's the real issue. I'll take anybody's,
I would say that, things to consider at this point in town is any changes in our grand list in our ECS funding as we move forward.
yeah.
That's it. That would just capture it.
And if the grand list goes up, the mill rate may need to be adjusted down just due to the math that we're doing, but we're still collecting the same revenue. Matt, did you have something?
No.
Okay. And if the grand list happens to go up, then the mill would go down. I think as a board, we're kind of committed to the neutral revenue and let them, and this is, I think I've said in the past too, that mill rate actually comes second, even though we as a board have thought about it first because we assume a mill rate and then we work from there, but really it works the other way, right?
Just
And then
be
the tax-
concise, Mike, when you say, I wouldn't get into all this up or down. Just
Understood.
say that changes to the budget could happen because of a fluctuation in the grand list and our ECS funding. But we are our goal is to keep the total tax collection flat.
Yep. And that's really what I want to hammer home, So the possible ECS changes, this was in the committee that Chris was talking about last Wednesday, could change ECS for fiscal year 22 from about 4 million to about 3.84 million, a reduction of almost $160,000. We have sufficient unassigned fund balance to cover this so that we do not intend to, and I'm putting this, I want consent on this, but that this board does not intend to raise taxes to cover that if there happens to be a decrease. So this is part of, I'm on A, preso, B is discussion. I'm happy to have a few words now, but I think that's what, and I'll show you another slide that shows that we actually have in the fund balance enough unassigned. It's still healthy, even if we absorb the whole 160. Chris, did you have something?
Well, there's two ways to look at this. And you can run with the numbers you have, which are the best numbers that we're getting from Hartford at this time. And knowing full well that we could have a shortfall in revenue of 159,000. And going into the next fiscal year with the full understanding that there is a potential shortfall for that and policing that throughout the fiscal year with the knowledge that we have money in our unassigned fund that if we do need to, because of the revenue shortfall, tap into it, because this revenue shortfall can also be offset. If so, for instance, we collect more money in interest, we collect, because these are all factored into revenue. So if we collected 50,000 more in interest, which I doubt we would, the revenue shortfall would be decreased. So you can do that, or you can address it and say, based on the best knowledge that we have a projected loss of 159,000, so we're going to use more money from the unassigned fund balance to make up for that. Or you could say we could have a projected loss of 159,000, but we'll offset that with 100,000, and we'll see where it goes. But
No,
that's the Board of Finance has to come up with that answer, but it's not.
Yep.
I don't sweat it too much because it's a revenue number, and if we go into the fiscal year knowing full well what those numbers are and the potential, you can make adjustments through the course of the fiscal year to
okay,
mitigate any potential shortfall.
Yes, Jeanette.
Mike, I don't agree with that, Chris. I think it's the job of the Board of Finance to take the data that they have and construct a budget to meet the needs of that data. And if we just say, oh yeah, we're gonna have a shortfall, we anticipate it, we'll fix it later. that's not being open and honest and clean books to the town. I would rather see us, if we know by next Wednesday, when we come back together after the town meeting to do our last
Yeah.
tweaking, I want to address that. I don't want to just,
I,
June 9th is when the
No.
budget passes.
no, but to Jeanette's point, I think this is what we probably should do as a board, is take the committee numbers, which is the latest numbers on the Wednesday after the town. We can talk about it at the public
Yep.
meeting, the public hearing, but on that Wednesday, I think we should revise our estimates down. I think we should revise our revenue estimates to meet this new, to be this new number. And I'll show you, we actually have the unassigned fund balance to cover it, to not raise revenue through taxes. And we're still in a good spot. And if it turns out better, then we get a put, that it's on the plus side.
Because this whole thing could disappear when it gets in, when it gets onto the floor and they hash out the budget, this whole thing could disappear.
Well, then the audit shows we got big money next year. You know, we get it back next year. Right. I'd rather, if the board is, I would rather reduce our revenue now than to hear about it mid-year.
Yeah, let's try to
Yes.
set the expectations as conservatively as possible. Then if it's better, great.
Right,
We're
Matt?
lucky that we're in a good position that we don't actually have to get too stressed
Right.
about this. It's very manageable, but that's
Right, hold on,
manage away.
Matt.
Is it easier to say to the town, oops, your taxes are gonna go up? Or we may just have extra money at the end of the year? And everything changes.
I mean, it's
We
a,
may
that's
just have a little extra money
that's
at
a
the end of the year.
simple-
Oh, yeah, we should absolutely go with that. Yeah,
that's a simple,
that should be a hard and fast, yeah.
yeah, so now, I don't know if you remember those numbers we were throwing around. Our revenue that we already, that this now doesn't include the ECS cut. But our revenue is 14.67 million and our expenses are 14.92 million. We have more expenses than we do revenue, right? And this is on that worksheet. We said, what are we going to use out of our unassigned fund balance to pay down the mill rate? So we don't have to raise additional taxes. And that's $252,000. Okay. And we had that on that worksheet. Here's where we are with our fund balance. We have $2.2 million. We maintain 10% operating expenses for cash flow. That leaves 739. That's your light blue on the right. 739,000 could be safely used for budgetary purposes. So we're going to pull 200 and something out of that, which basically leaves 487,000. This was all in the worksheet, right? Now, if the ECS cut comes to fruition, we actually have to pull 407,000 out of the unassigned, and we're left with 331,000. Okay. Now these, Jeanette, hold on before you say, I think these slides get a little dense, so I'm happy if you guys are saying just cut all this out because
that
Go
was
ahead.
going to be my recommendation. If you go back a slide.
Yeah.
There
there may have been a
I
couple.
would
in
not
there
be,
before.
I would not be putting out that 487. That's our working number that we need to know. What
Right.
the town needs to know is that they're going to get zero increase. And
Okay.
this is what the mill rate equates to. That's the bottom
Yeah.
line for them.
Yeah,
if
I
you-
may actually end. I'm sorry, Jeanette, for cutting you off. I may end and not even get into this stuff because I
Okay.
think it gets a little dense.
Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, if somebody in town's gonna go, wait a minute, you got $400,000, I want you to use all of that and take
Right.
the taxes down.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, Matt.
Like if you were, this is great. In the general presentation, have much more condensed. And when people start asking questions,
Sure.
if they really want to know it, then you go to these other slides, and people who don't care can leave.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can get all nerdy with it.
You know what I'll do? I'll dupe this once I clean it up a bit. I'll dupe it and then I'll shorten it massively. Get rid of those examples that we didn't like so much and get rid of this. This is getting kind of thick. I mean, even
This
when
is
I was
all
getting
what
through it.
we understand. This
Yeah,
is
and
all what
actually-
we know. Yeah,
Partly, I'm happy enough showing you guys because it helps us all understand what's going on. So let me just kind of flip through that. You see, and then the last slide, whoops, the last slide is just the expense revenue sheet showing that this will be, Chris, I'm imagining we'll have it printed. I don't know if we can put a link to something,
Yeah, absolutely.
but this is that's the end of the pre-zone, right? And so if, let's see, if I ended early, it would just be possibly ending on possible ECS changes. It's kind of a downer, but we have money, we have unassigned fund to save, to pay that.
We shouldn't even cover that. We should just bake that into the overall numbers and say, this is where
Well,
we're at. And pending the legislature's
I
you
mean,
know,
could
negotiations.
Could we make a motion? Is it proper to make a motion tonight to revise the sheet and then we revise that, we revise the prezo and we go with what the latest numbers are as of right now instead of
Wait a
last
minute,
Wednesday?
have we already posted what goes to the newspaper for the town meeting?
So my understanding, what's legally required is that we have to publish, we have to notice, it happened today or yesterday. We have to notice that there is a public hearing. We don't have to notice the specific details. But when we decided on last Wednesday, we decided that's what we were going to present. So as of right now, I can't change it, but I think the board still could because nothing's been presented. It gets presented on Tuesday. The notice was about the time and place of the meeting.
I
Mike,
think,
can I jump in?
Yes, Natalie.
The reason that we talked about the scheduling for last week is when it's time for the town meeting, that's when the numbers that people need to be voting on are in. It's not for the public hearing. That's more like
Right.
like this is what we're working on. This is what we're going to go forward with. And then you might make changes the next night, next
On
Wednesday.
the 5th, right.
And then you're going to give Chris
That'll be final
the
numbers.
stuff that gets published in the paper. So all of this can be all changed and flexible next Wednesday.
Right.
While I am talking, I just want to mention that the last few years, I've collected about $80,000 in interest, but the Board of Finance chose to lowball that because it can't necessarily be factored in. And when you give me the collection rate of 98%, that's just considering 98% of the current grand list. And so none of the back taxes that I collect, nothing that's in suspense is considered, and all the entire motor vehicle supplemental list, which is about $80,000 to $100,000, that does not get factored into the amount. So every single year, I'm collecting more than 100% of what you've asked me to.
We've
Because-
always created a conservative
Yes.
budget. So
I
that's
just-
part of that.
So I'm saying in the middle of the year, if you find this whole thing with the ECS shortfall potentially, there is more money coming in right along through the year that if you got into a problem where you needed to make an additional appropriation, there is that money in there.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think we're going to get to the point where we're making additional preparation, but that is a good point.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie.
And thank you for the clarification. I think we have been conservative, and I think that's to our credit, because what we want to do, I think what Matt was getting at, is tell people, hey, we planned for the worst and things were a little better, right?
Right. I agree. I'm just making sure everybody is understanding that
Yep.
when you give me that 98%, it's just talking about the 98% of the current, and your slide further at the beginning where you were multiplying and dividing everything out to get to the grand list. That's an excellent way of showing, yes, I cannot collect 100% of the current amount. It's impossible, but I am collecting delinquent taxes and suspense taxes and the supplemental motor vehicle list that we don't even factor in at this point.
That's fantastic.
That's something that I didn't think of, so thank you,
Um,
Natalie.
Could you guys hear over there?
It's duly noted on Facebook on a regular basis that
All right.
Natalie collects delinquent taxes. So
Mike,
Who's there? Jeanette? Yes.
I'd like to see us leave it as you present that, we use every penny that we have, however you phrase it more professionally, and that we're looking to have a 0% increase. Numbers may fluctuate, but the bottom line is that's where we're going. Because when you start getting into the expenses of revenue, now we're shortfalling, where's that money coming from? Because you're going to have the old codger in the crowd saying, if you've got that money in the thing, you should be lowering my taxes.
Fair enough.
Do we
Thank
have an
you.
old codger there that I can't see?
Jason, I was pointing to Jason.
Oh, okay. So I agree. I think it was Matt was saying that, we need just to end it with the fact that, boom. And
Yeah.
like it says, you have this data if other people are really like, how did you get there?
Yep. I'll keep a long version separate. So I think if we want to, I think what we should do. Okay, we're in the discussion period on
Okay,
B.
I do not think we should change any numbers tonight.
Okay, so
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna
we're
ask.
just-
Should we factor in the proposed newest ECS numbers or not?
Okay, so here's what I think. So Jeanette's saying no to don't change, but let me just kind of phrase the question a little bit and we can talk about it. We've got revised numbers. Let me go to the slide that showed it. This one. That could go down 159. That was what we got out of the finance committee last week. So the question would be, do we change what we present on Tuesday to revise the numbers down by 159,976 on the ECS assumed revenue? And that Jeanette says no. I think the most proper thing to do is make the motion, have some discussion. So and then vote. So Jeanette, is that all right?
Only if you're going to move to, you could have a discussion without moving it to a vote at this point in time.
Okay, general
Just to get
discussion.
a
then.
feel, yeah.
That's fine. General
I
discussion.
think we've been discussing it. Yeah, I would make a motion that we adjust our numbers to anticipate the
The currently known,
the estimated shortfall, $159,976.
So Matt is making that motion, Jeanette, to consider, did you say reducing, to put the reduction into the
Yeah.
presentation materials? Okay.
I second that motion.
Jason's seconding.
Okay.
All right, let's just discuss that.
Okay. To my points on that, if I might, Mike.
Yep.
You're going to have more changes next week after the town meeting. So you're doing work
Maybe.
tonight and the bottom line of no increase in taxes is not going to change. So it's an internal movement that we're going to be making as a board's decision, how they do that. It's not a public information change that's going to make it. You're going to have changes come after that meeting as well. So why do the work now and then have to do it again next week? The bottom line is we're not going up.
I take Jeanette's point and I agree with that. And the only thing I'd add would be purely for transparency. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I completely agree with Jeanette. This is all internal, machinations we're going through here. But I just for transparency, if somebody is actually really listening and following.
Well, I would think that in your
Hold on
slide
one-
presentation, you would say, we anticipate there may be an additional 159 reduction from the state that we look to cover with our general fund. Something as simple as that, but the figures aren't solidified yet.
Okay, Matt.
Jeanette, I understand you're completely, and you're right, nothing's gonna change, but I think to your point, if anything, we can say we knew of this and
We absolutely did.
adjusted our budget for it.
Well, we absolutely know about it and I plan to absolutely discuss it. And I think we absolutely will take action on it as best we can next Wednesday after.
That's all I'm saying is that the action on changing our numbers should be next Wednesday.
We're not going to do what Chris said and just leave them
No,
because we got to have the best numbers when we put it to the town for the Wednesday. I guess, Jeanette, your point is we're going to have to, well, you say have to, but I say may. We may need to make adjustments the Wednesday after the public hearing. This ECS thing could be done then.
I rescind I withdraw my motion to remove it today.
Jason, do you
You said more
consent
time.
to withdraw the motion? You've seconded it, so you have right to.
Yeah, yes, I consent, just basically
Okay.
because it's purely, it's a purely procedural move that's not going to make any difference. Yeah, and we've discussed it plenty, so.
Okay, is there any objection to removing that motion,
no.
withdrawing that motion? We'll vote on that if we need to. Okay. All right, so I think I'll take the feedback that you guys gave me tonight. I think it's wonderful. I got a little in the weeds here. I'll take a fresh look at it.
Great presentation. Yes, normal.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Really clears things.
Can you link, is this PowerPoint?
This is Keynote, and I'll
So-
talk to Jason and see if we can do something. It's not final, but what do you want? I mean,
Well, no, I'm just saying, so when
So
you
people
come with the
can see.
numbers, if somebody asks for an explanation, you just link to your,
yeah,
to your more detailed.
Shoot it over to me. If we can convert it to a PowerPoint, then,
then you could insert hyperlinks if you wanted.
Yeah. so
and you can
someone-
work on it
someone
live
says,
if you want. I know
Baby
it's a little
steps.
different than Keynote. I know it's.
You need to fade in, fade out. No,
Oh, man.
That way you can, so say, someone says, well, how did you get to that $4 million number? Click on it, goes back to spreadsheet, you get this, and this.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm just saying, it just, because
yeah,
this is great, we're planning to use it next year, or next budget.
we should do stuff like this. We should have a presentation like this, right? If we had a key, well, I use Keynote, but if it could be a PowerPoint, you know, there's a separate discussion I think
Yeah,
we as a
that's-
board need to have. Oh, just to say, we as a board, and maybe we'll have some time in the off budget season, you know, after this stuff, to talk about how can we use technology? How can we use the Microsoft platform? Because I just used what I had on my computer, right? So I probably won't get all that done for Wednesday. It's aspirational, and you know,
No, it's not nearly as important.
No.
I agree with it. I wholly agree with that. And what I would like, and I don't know what the new website's going to have, but I hope that we have our own little area in there where we can drop this stuff. I know there's sort of that now, but it's kind of
Yeah.
janky. I don't know where all the links go, and I don't know who can put things up and that sort of thing.
I got one question.
Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
If we get to the July 1st date, and after that, or before the next January 1st date, if there's a major change in some way, can you change the mill rate at that point or no?
Did you hear the question, Jeanette? Can you
Yeah.
change the mill rate after? I don't believe so,
No.
but maybe someone who maybe.
So
I
what
don't
you,
know,
what you
Natalie-
do, if you have a big issue in town, we need $300,000 because we lost the wing of the library. That has to be passed by the town, and it also has to be a supplemental bill. It's not
Supplemental
changing your
bill.
mill rate, it's a supplemental bill.
Okay, right. Yeah, so that's a major issue. Hopefully, we're not in that situation. Good question.
But just-
All right. Have we discussed possible changes in the ECS and grand lists enough to move on to new business?
Yep.
Awesome. So let me bring up let me get out of full screen. I don't even know where my mouse button is. Okay. So this next one seems redundant, but what I want to do is I just want to make sure that there's no question about the operation of this board. I think if you look back at what happened last week, Monday, we had a sort of abrupt resignation of the chair. I've been at these meetings. I kind of, thought I knew what was going on. So I tried to pick up the reins that evening. I actually got Jason to help me with some of the technical issues so that we could get that workbook up for the board. And I think we did some really good work on Wednesday, right? And I called a special meeting to fill some vacancies, but there might be a question about the position to ratify the position of the chair of the board. And so I just want to make it completely proper above the table. This is not a personal thing. I actually put town, board, then me in that order, you know, and that's not talking about other issues larger than that. But I'm here to serve the town. I'm here to serve the board, and then me lastly, right? So what I'm going to do right now, just to make this completely without reproach and without question, is make the motion to ratify the vote of the chairman of the Board of Finance to be Michael Lee.
You can't make that motion, but I would make it. So moved.
Okay, so thank you, Jeanette. And Jeanette, you made the motion the other day too, so, and Brady is seconding it to ratify Michael Lee as Board of Finance Chair.
Ooh,
We will, I mean, I consider this a little pro forma, but it's also, I
that's
do not
very-
want there to be any question as to whether we were above board with noticing and taking that vote as of last Wednesday. I think it was proper, but I just don't want there to be any interruption to this process. And again, it's about town, board, and me in that order. I'll open it to discussion.
I'm just curious, just the clarification is what procedural step did we miss? We just missed the ratification step subsequent to the vote?
No, I believe there was a question as to whether we needed a separate agenda item for the chair position.
Because it was a special meeting?
Well, no, it could have just been just either an issue of appearance.
Yeah, well, I think from what I remember was there was a few questions about should it be done? Should we wait for other members to come? And I do appreciate what Mike is doing. giving everybody a second chance to say, hey, if you think something was done incorrectly, or there was some form of impropriety, let's take this up again, which is why I seconded the motion. So I do like the fact that he's just seeking clarification on his position and making sure that last week, nobody felt like it was too quick or something along those lines.
Jeanette, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Well
Okay,
said.
okay. Any further comment?
I guess my comment would be is I thought we did it right. It seemed to be a little bit crusty when you look back on it. So I'm comfortable with, again, putting Mike forward. I think we're working great together.
Thank you, Jeanette. I appreciate that. I really, Rob, you want to say something?
If they're unavailable, is there a second, another chairman?
Pat
second?
Tracy is still vice chair. Now, there is the matter of an open officer as the secretary. And I had mentioned that, and we decided not to act on that. We could do that at some point later. But I frankly, I'm always here. I'm not going anywhere. Any further discussion on that? We'll just go around the horn. Matt,
All set, doing a great job. I'm sorry, so are we voting?
yes, we are yays and nays.
Personal, that may, so are we agreeing, is this a new vote, or are we agreeing that the vote that was held last week is accurate?
The motion is to ratify Michael Lee as Board of Finance Chair. So you should, Brady,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
and I will vote yes for myself to show that I'm willing and able to take this position. Last week, I abstained, but there's no reason that you can't vote for yourself. So I'm voting for myself. The motion passes 5-1. Higher, I'll add, than last time. Thank you, everyone. And they liked me as chair so much, they voted for me twice. Thank you, Jeanette.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for everybody that's working so well. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate, I mean, you guys are throwing these computer things up and I'm just in awe, so have at it. The secretary position is more of a position of honor. I mean, what is it? Did they do anything?
So the secretary can call meetings, and that's actually how I was able to call the meetings
Okay,
Monday when the chairman went missing.
okay, so it's not part of record keeping.
No, this is there may be a specific term for it, but it's not the person who keeps minutes.
Okay, in regards to the person who does keep minutes, do we have our minutes recorder there tonight?
I do not see Karen on the call.
Okay, can I ask that,
Would be a recorder.
One second, Brady had a question. Brady,
They are able to do it via the recorder.
my understanding is that the recording secretary can create minutes from those recordings, and that those recordings are made available to the recording secretary to do so.
okay, if that's the way we're gonna run it, that's fine with me, but I would like to see perhaps somebody on our chairman or vice chair could reach out to Karen and get those past minutes. I don't want to get too far away from our minutes because there's a lot of motions that we've been doing.
Well, I expect our recording secretary to be here, so I don't know what is going on. I can certainly reach out to the recording secretary.
I know she said last week,
That's right. Last week there was
Last week
another,
she had a class, yeah.
because of things she couldn't check.
this week as well?
I know last week, and I think this week.
Okay, this week I didn't hear anything about this week. I did hear about last week. Here's what I think we should roll into, because I've got these motion sheets. I just kind of quickly printed up. I just feel like we should just start doing this too, because a lot of times it's hard to kind of track those things. Chris, can you confirm that these are being stored up at least on the YouTube when you've?
They go from Zoom to YouTube.
So is last meeting on YouTube now?
If you go onto the Town of Canterbury YouTube channel, you can watch it.
Okay, because what I do worry about, and I don't know if Natalie is still here. Natalie, are there some rules about when these minutes are supposed to be, approved or submitted?
The motions have to be available for public to see within 48 hours of the meeting. The physical minutes, which include, any, a little short thing about discussion, who was present, that kind of thing, have to be available to the public by the 7th day of the meeting.
So
So-
you'll note I sent you draft minutes with the motions. and
Yes,
votes
yep,
from
and I
last
have
week.
those in the file.
So I think we're compliant on that regard, but the second piece, we're not necessarily.
With the YouTube video, Natalie, you said the motions had to be available 2 days, the public, but since the YouTube video is public, does that count?
I'm not sure in this day and age of, technology being available. I think the Freedom of Information says they have to be available to the public. So what traditionally, because we're a small town and all of the boards and commissions don't have regular office hours, they are held in file at the town clerk's office. I will tell you that I'm not the minutes police, and I have way more things to do than to make sure all the boards and commissions have filed their minutes, or hardly anybody has turned in their motions to me within 48 hours. So,
Except me last week.
yes, I was so happy I put a little gold sticker on. So I'm not the one that is the most concerned about it. I should say, I don't want to say that I don't care, but I have other things to do.
Okay,
So the idea is, and you're fine unless somebody complains. And so if somebody asked me where were the minutes of the meeting, and they were in a draft form somewhere, I could refer them to you. This whole meeting is able to be viewed on the YouTube channel, so I don't know that we don't have people running to my office to look at minutes.
okay. Brady?
In my mind, I think we're covered. I think I would say, yes, it's a good idea to reach out to the recording
I will.
secretary. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like either way, it would be some form of electronic communication. It would be where the minutes, they're available here. We are making all of this information is public online via YouTube. So I think we're covered, at least technically there. And I do think you're suggesting to reach out and just make sure that they're being done, at least in the historical way, properly, is a good idea. But it sounds to me like we're probably covered.
Okay.
Yeah, and last week's meetings right up on YouTube, so.
Oh, good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you for checking. Matt?
I can see where a lot of people in town would not think to go to YouTube to get minutes or anything like that. So I think an honest effort to get minutes completed and into Natalie as soon as possible.
I think as a board, we should strive to have minutes done appropriately, because
Yes.
the other thing is somebody doesn't want to sit through an hour and a half or 2 hour, 3 hour YouTube. They want to see what was done and see.
Yeah, I
So
agree 100%. My point was only that I think we're covered to have a week to just make sure that the recording secretary is able to.
I would say we're in a little bit of a special circumstance right now, and I hope that it irons itself out. So, and we'll do our best to do so.
Well, I think you've already done more than has been done, so we're good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want you to know, I'm not advocating for not turning minutes in. I'm just saying,
That's what I thought you said. No. No. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, I think the board agrees with that. So we're good. Anything else on the new business? I guess we can move on from there. Public comment. Oh, go ahead, Jeanette.
Are you going to do the same routine for next week with the public hearing?
So Tuesday's meeting, go ahead.
Zoom in it,
Say again.
as far as doing a Zoom?
It'll be a public, it'll be a hybrid just like this.
Okay, thank you.
And, right, Chris?
Yeah.
It'll be a hybrid just like this.
Yeah.
Um,
It could be better than this, you never know.
It,
So, yeah.
it might be. Hopefully we get some people to show up. My plan is to do the budget prezo and then to pass it off to the departments for their parts.
I wouldn't even go that far, because it's not, we've already done all that. Pretty much the ball's in the Board of Finance's court to present. Every department's presented already. It's your budget now, so a lot of it falls in the Board of Finance, you know, I'll be here, I'm sure Steve.
Steve,
will
are
be
you
here.
on the call? Are you
He'll
going to be here
field
on
any
Tuesday?
questions. And, yeah, but it really,
Right. Okay. I mean, I had thought we would have separate agenda items for each of the presentations, but if that's not,
no, it's
that's not
already gone-
typical.
it's gone way past that already, yeah.
Okay, so I'll have an item to present a budget presentation, and then I'll have public comment.
Yeah, and essentially that's what it becomes. We end up fielding comments and questions from the public.
Yeah.
And
It will be a special meeting, so if anyone has particular strong feelings about what should be on the agenda, please let me know by like the end of the weekend. Probably by the start of the weekend. Actually, I'll have to get it to you, Natalie. Well, maybe I'll try to get it to you late this week. Well, you're out Friday, right, Natalie? What's the latest?
Correct.
So it's
Tomorrow,
or Monday?
if you,
Tomorrow.
if you can't get it to me until Friday, I could go in and just post it.
Let's just get it out tomorrow.
Okay,
I will try to get you minutes for the meeting tomorrow. So if anyone gets home tonight and has an idea, please let me know. Does that sound all right?
essentially with the public hearing, it's really, that is,
Yep.
is it in of itself, if we're there to hear from the public. By the time you get to the public hearing, though, most people that have a vested interest in this process have let us know already through either selectmen meetings or Board of Finance meetings.
Awesome. Okay, public, we're gonna move to the item 5, public
Mike.
comment.
Mike, did you have in your presentation that you showed us what the town went up and what the school went up and the town went down? Is that in there?
It was this year to last year,
First or second slide.
right here.
Okay, all right, so that covers, that covers you
That's right.
telling the town what they did. All right.
Mhm. Okay. All right, public comment. Any public on Zoom or here, feel free to chime in. All right, hearing none,
wait, I want to say something.
go ahead.
I think that your slides are really good and they are very clear, and I think you did a good job demonstrating what you're working on. So I think it's good.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Here, here.
All righty, guys. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, Jeanette moved. Brady seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank- Thank you,
Have a great
everyone.
evening. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.